Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, Mapping Out Success in Developmental and Corequisite Courses, the first 8 weeks. My name is Danny Shapiro, and I'm on the marketing team here at Hawks Learning. Our speaker today is Winning at Math author, Dr. Paul Nolting. Winning at Math is the only math-specific study skills book that offers statistical evidence demonstrating an improvement in students' ability to learn math and make better grades. Dr. Nolting is a national expert in assessing math learning problems, developing effective student learning strategies, and assessing institutional variables that affect math success and math study skills. Over the last 25 years, he has consulted with over 100 colleges, universities, and high schools to improve success in the math classroom. He has conducted numerous national conference workshops on math learning and disability issues. He is now consulting with colleges on developing their co-requisite courses. Dr. Nolting holds a Ph.D. in Education and Curriculum Instruction from the University of South Florida. And before we get started today, Dr. Nolting would like us to launch a poll so that you all can have some input on what we focus on. So if you will please take a minute to go ahead and vote. We will be covering all topics, but this will just give you a chance to have some input. We'll give it just another second. And Dr. Nolting, I will turn it over to you.
Yeah, I can see some of the results. Okay. Yeah. First of all, I'd like to thank Cox for inviting me to talk on the webinar and go over some strategies and techniques that will definitely improve math success. What I'm looking at a little bit is the results. First 8 weeks, looks like some of it, and I'm just going to click off of this one here. Both. That sort of thing. So it looks like most of it's the first 8 weeks, and then more of a little bit of the curriculum, then a lot of it for both. So what I'll be doing is spend a little bit more time in the first 8 weeks, and then we'll go down and talk about the syllabus. There we go. What I'm going to do too is kind of give you an overview. The first idea is what can we do the first 8 weeks of class and then help the students become more successful. I've been working with students for many, many years. And we know the first 8 weeks is the most important. In fact, I did some research a long time ago. Start my video. Okay, there we go. Got it. Good deal. So I did some research a while ago on math success, and we found out that we really had to catch in the first 8 weeks. Hopefully the first 6 weeks, but at least the first 8 weeks to make them more successful. And then after that, it's almost like a catch-up type of thing. Then what I want to go into is some curriculum designs in the future on how you can help make them more successful the first 8 weeks, because we know that is the main area we got to look at. So what I'm going to look at now is going to our next slide and everything, which should be doing that right now. There we go. Yeah, okay. The real question, like I said earlier, what can we do the first 8 weeks to help improve math success? We have to really talk to the students, and you've already done this, and you need to talk to them again about how math is sequential, how you can really help them understand that now is the time to put the effort in. A lot of students working with other classes will just wait a little bit, especially some of the social sciences, because they know they can catch up. But we have to really show to them that it's very hard to catch up in math. Maybe not as hard in some liberal arts and stat courses, but in the algebra courses, it definitely is very hard. And the effort you put in now pays off tenfold in the future. So what we have done is talked about how math leads from one course, one topic to the next topic to the next topic. Where in history, my joke is, hey, you can fail the first couple of tests in history really study a lot and still pass the course. That really doesn't happen that much in mathematics. So the idea is, like I said, sequential learning. Explain to them also that you got to practice. You know, it's not a spectator sport. You got to practice. You got to do the skills. You got to do the homework. And a lot of times when you tell them this, they go, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I would, you know, spend a few minutes maybe next class period and talk about the difference between high school and college math classes. Number one difference, goes 5 times as fast. Number two difference, most of learning in high school occurs in the classroom. Most of learning in college occurs outside the classroom. We can guide them and show them how to do things, but they got to really do it. So that's one thing we got to look at is really how to make them more successful. Next thing, I have them take the math study skills evaluation. And the idea here is, how do we make them more successful? Well, in the old days, we said, go study more, go study harder, do better. Now we're finding out is they don't know how to do that. They don't know how to study. They may know how to study for English and sociology and psychology, but not for math. So with this math study skills evaluation, which we're going to go to in a little more detail, is the key. Because once we can show them the skills that they need to improve on, you know, what do they need to improve on? Is it their homework skills? You know, is it their reduce their anxiety? Is it their test taking skills? Is it note taking? What is it? This gives them hope too. That really helps them out with the math study skills evaluation. We'll go to it in more detail later on. Math self-efficacy is another one. And I'm going to talk about that in more detail too. How to talk about them being more confident in math. That whole picture now has changed. We know about locus control, we know about motivation, but the idea of math self-efficacy. What strategies can we get them to use? What strategies can you use to help them become more successful? And that's the key. It's not just motivation, it's motivation with strategies. Just like I talked about when I played football. The coach would yell at me. Actually, it was my uncle, but anyway, coach would yell at me, but then they'll tell me how to do it differently. Now, I'm not saying you should yell at your students. I'm just saying that you can talk to them, help them change. That's it. Help them change. Next thing is about us changing. It's like the multimodality instruction in classrooms and students. So if you do a lot of visual explanations, do some auditory. Get some small groups. Have them go to the board. And I'm going to go do some more suggestions too. But the idea is that teach it a different way. Most math instructors, because I've researched this for years, are visual, analytic, individual learners. As you go up the line of math to about calculus, most of them students are like that. But down in elementary algebra, intermediate, and even college algebra, they're different type of learners. They really want to become more in tune. And what I'd be talking to them about too is how to do things differently. If you're an auditory learner, it's not just listen to me, it's taping me. If you approve of that, then listen to it. It's just taping what I call the tutorial sessions and listen to that. I mean, that's really a good thing. And taking pictures and looking at it. So you get the idea of the multimodality. It's not just you as the student. And then what we call developing a math supplemental resource sheet. That's something we did when I was doing in directing Title III, when the main important part of Title III is improving math success. We did a sheet on all the resources on campus. And I've been to a lot of campuses. Every one I've been to, they have more than one resource area for students to go to. And as I talk to the students and talk to the faculty and talk to the advisors, et cetera, most students they don't know which one to go to. They don't know which one was most successful, which one is for me. So we'll get to the sheet a little bit later on. This is really important with co-requisite courses. That's the big deal now, is co-requisite courses. In fact, I just got another email from Colorado asking me to help them develop some of their co-requisite courses. Help several colleges in Kentucky, several colleges basically in California. The big movement is how to do it. But we have to look at the curriculum, which we'll do. And part of it is that we need help with the labs and resource centers. We just can't do it ourselves. And I'll just go into this for a minute. In California, I worked with them, and still am. It's basically, they started with college algebra, but they had students in there, not just intermediate, they had students basically should have been in elementary, and some should have been in pre-algebra. So the idea is we had to do resources. So that co-requisite sheet and understanding, here's the resources for you, really worked out well. So that really helps out. So anyway, what we're going to do now is go to the next slide, which looks like My system's freezing up a little bit. Page down, let's go. Let's see how I can get this done. Oh, freezing up. Oh, there we go. I did it too fast. Yeah, it's freezing up, but we'll take care of that. Okay, so we talked about that. Now, when we get into the Math Study Skills Evaluation, I already talked about it a little bit, but this is what it does. And it's free on my website. You can just go to it and have students take it. Because the idea of this one is to figure out what's going on with the student immediately. And what they end up doing, they take the evaluation, and there's no math on it. No math, no math, no math. This study skills strategies and techniques. So the idea really is to look at the study skills strategies and techniques. So what happens is they'll do 35 like questions, and they'll get the results back. And this also is in the Hawk's learning system. They got it built right in where the students can take it immediately. And you end up getting overall test score. You end up getting sub-test scores such as study effectively, memory and learning, reading and homework, classroom learning, test anxiety and test taking, and basically where are you lining up there. If you look at the right-hand side, it actually gives you points of each one of them. But what this stuff really does, it pinpoints, again, like I said, what you need to know, how you need to study. And the good thing about this is that the lower the score, the better. If you make a low score, that's great. And that means we have more time to help you out. So that's what we really want to look at, is just looking at that area. So let's see if we can go down again. Yep, it's clicking on me again. Okay, right there. There we go. Now, the math self-efficacy we talked about. A lot of articles on that. A lot of articles that are there. Zentech did an article with Julie Phelps a while ago. I think they presented on it at the math conferences. Some people presented at the National Math Summits and all those different things. So look at a couple of things which you can do to help students develop more math self-efficacy. This is number one, the experience. In other words, the major part of this is having them be successful on some of the tasks. It's mastery experiences, mastery learning, not that you're doing a mastery learning profile like with some of your modules. It's actually them making success. So I would set up some tests, practice, or in class where they're going to be successful. And the positive statements. If you're in class walking around, they're doing the homework, look at them, talk to them, say, good shot, good job, do this again. Another one, when, like I said, when you're doing some practice tests, don't even grade them. In the classroom, 3 or 4 problems. A friend of mine does that. I think Linda does that, Zentech. And she says, it doesn't matter. They put them down, they try them out, you're praising the effort. Now, effort doesn't get them good grades, but effort starts the whole idea. So the idea is help them become more successful with some of your tests, practice tests, information tests, and that really does help them. Vicarious experiences and vicarious learning. Oh, wow, this is neat. This is what happens. They learn from other people. And what happens is if they see somebody like themselves being successful in math, they're more likely to try it. So the idea here is that you can do that. You can set up in groups. You can talk about it. I actually have students who've been successful in some of the tests talk to the whole class. And some of the other students going, wait a minute, I'm just like them. They're doing these skills and strategies and becoming more successful. I'll do the same thing. Yes, that's what they want. They want to see other people like them. I actually tell stories. I have students like X, Y, and Z student who did this, 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 and this, and it's similar to what you're doing, and we helped them out, and they became successful. They like that. They do that. Then you get down to the verbal persuasion. That's the feedback, and we already talked about that. That's the feedback from the instructors. My trick is this one. You catch them doing something right, and you praise them. That's the main thing. It should be realistic and authentic, but the idea here is that you have to talk to them, encourage them. Then when I do tutor training, I train the tutors. And even if they do some work in class, like I said earlier, praise them. Next one is the physiological aspects. That's when you get into your anxiety issues. And the idea of the anxiety issues is a little bit more difficult. Help them reduce their anxiety. Help them understand how to improve their study skills. Help them deal with this. Say anxiety is real, which it really is. Now, you probably didn't have any math anxiety. Actually, I have some instructors who did. I have instructors I worked with that started in developmental and moved on. But the idea is that they have it. I think the only time I had some anxiety was doing my comps for my PhD. But I understood that. I knew what to do. So the idea here, and then, like I said earlier, with the supplemental resource sheet, anything that helps them understand to reduce their anxiety and get help, that's what we really want. And that should work with the students too. Okay, yep, well, I'm going to be fast on the trigger here. Okay, let me back it up. Here we go. Good deal. Sorry about the movement. Anyway, what happens is this. When I meet with the students, so this is neat. First of all, how do you get them to go to your office? You got to be friendly in class, friendly outside of class. You know, talk to them about being successful. Talk to them about, okay to come to my office. Talk to them about students. Don't mention names that came to your office and you helped them. That's that vicarious thing. So the whole idea, excuse me, the whole idea here is looking at that. So when you come in the office, what I've heard students say thousands of times, they came in the office, they got in there, and the math instructor just worked problems with them. Well, that's okay, but that usually is not the solution to their problems. What happens is that you got to give them strategies and refer them maybe to the counselor if they have anxiety, not just work the problems. We're very comfortable working problems. We can work problems all day. We can do it in our heads. The idea is they need extra work. Talk about their math history a little bit. What's going on with you? What's your history? That sort of thing. And I get horror stories sometimes. I get positive stories sometimes. At the end, I go, you're here. We're going to help you. Think about what we call basically mindfulness. Don't think about what happened in the past. Don't think what happened in the future. Just be present today. What can you do today? That sort of thing. Ask them how they do their homework. Oh, that's a good one. How do you do your homework? How do you set it up? Oh, that's interesting. Because when I talk to them about that, whoa, especially online homework. And Hawks has a good online homework system. The idea here is, what do you do with it? I have so many students that will start doing the homework, click enough, get them all right, think they got it, go take the test, and don't do well. You know, then they go, oh, what's wrong with me? I said, well, it's nothing wrong with you as far as doing the homework. You did it, but what did you write down afterwards? What are your notes? And not that we can do it today, we have that note-taking system for homework. What's going on? Write it down. What did you review for the test? Now, these are questions. I'm going to hit a bunch of these. How did you review for the test? And the answer is I didn't. I got all the homework right. Well, that's good. Good short-term memory. Problem is we test long-term memory. So you got to write it down and review it. Write it down and review it. And with the math study skills evaluation, that's the one I'm going to look at right now. We're going to go to that a little bit more detail. Okay. And it looks like my screen's frozen up again, so I may not go to that one. We'll just go down. So the idea here is that you go to the math study skills evaluation and talk to them and help them become more successful. Next one, anxiety issues. Talk to them. Say it's real. We talked about that earlier. And what we're going to do, how are we going to help you? What's going on? That works out really well. And say that practice does reduce anxiety, but I have students that practice a lot, and basically still had anxiety. My worst anxiety cases were actually in calculus classes. Now, when we start looking at the type of test-taking errors, we're going to go through those in a minute. What to do. Also, I was at a college recently, and we had students come talk about anxiety issues, talk about what they were doing, how they reacted to the anxiety. And we actually asked them, what do you say? What do you do with anxiety issues? And they talked to some things. I said, what really triggers your anxiety? And every one of them said red marks. And I'm going, what do you mean by red marks? They said, when we get our test back, we look at the red marks. As soon as I see one red mark, this is a student said, as soon as they see one red mark, I stop. I just don't do it anymore. I basically quit. I don't even review the test. I'm going, oh, they've been conditioned. They've been conditioned since probably first, second, third grade that red marks are bad. I get anxiety. I quit. So we asked them the obvious question. What marks do you think we should use? What color? And you can see on the screen, blue and green. They want blue and green marks. They want blue and green marks. And basically that works too. So the idea is that set up with blue and green marks. So anyway, the resource sheet is there. The math success plan, that's another one we're going to look at in a minute. And we're going to see that and see what's going on. Let's go to that one here. Next, test anxiety questions. This is really good. Once you end up having them in your office, talk to them a little bit, and then you go over the test. After doing that, what happens is this. As you're doing the test, it's not that you just missed it. Remember, you used green now or blue. You know, how many points did you miss to misread direction errors? What are they? Because you got to give them feedback. How many points due to careless errors? Feedback. How many points due to concept errors? You just missed the concept. You didn't understand it. And I talk about concept errors. In other words, you can't do them now. You couldn't do them then. You can't do them in the future. Concept errors really kill students. How many for application errors? That's basically, application errors are the ones for like word problems. Application errors are also basically for graphing. You know, they can't graph. So I look at those. We're counting up all the points they missed for these because I want to see what's really going on. Test procedure errors. You didn't use a test taking strategy. You basically didn't review the test at all. You got stuck on one problem and just kept working on it. You got it right, but you wasted 10 minutes. So the idea here is give them this information on misread direction errors, careless errors, concept errors, and application errors, and what can they do? What's going on? Study errors. Cram the night before. Well, they used to say cramming is bad, but I had students that crammed it worked. In fact, I'm pretty sure some of you out there crammed as math instructors and it worked. Usually doesn't work. You know, study errors. What did you study? We mentioned that earlier. What did you review? Oh, nothing. I got all the homework right. No. What did you review? Did you review the classroom notes? Notes from basically from the homework? You got to review something. You got to do that. You got to work with those areas and help those students. So the idea is we actually add up all the points and talk to them about it. So what you want to do is give them feedback. So the next time you take the test, you're going to stand there. You can relax yourself and you can look for those misread direction errors. You can look for those misread direction errors, those careless errors, those concept errors, application errors. And I tell them, well, I want you to stay in the room until basically, until the time's up. They go, no, I want to run out. We talked about that. Two reasons why. One is test anxiety. The other one is even more interesting. I'm not going to be the last person in the room. If I see 2 or 3 people, I'm turning my paper in because I'm not going to be dumb and stupid. And that one comes up all the time. So I actually mock out some tests from last semester showing that some of the students who handed their test paper in first got A's and some of them got F's. Some of the people who handed their test paper in last, some of them got A's, some of them got F's. So the idea here basically is get them to feedback what they can do on that. Then what we get into is like the textbook reading assignment, that sort of thing. That works really well. We also look at what I call the success plan. Boy, this is pretty neat. This is when you team up with your academic resource center, your learning center, your math lab, and a plan. When students come in, especially the ones who made D's and F's on this first test, because you probably gave the first test already, D's and F's, okay? What do you do with them? You talk to them. Then you make out a plan. Now, it won't be as comprehensive as this one. This is the one we have in the Winning the Math book. But it's a plan. So when they leave, what can they do? How can you help them out? Part of the plan is this. You took the math study skills evaluation. How do you improve those skills? What are your goals? How many hours a week do you plan on studying math? When do you plan on going to the math lab? What type of strategies are you going to use right now? When are you going to come see me? When are you going to come see me? And that becomes even more important. Come see me. Most students are afraid to see math instructors, like I said earlier. But the idea is being kind in class, which you are, but really talking to students and encourage them. That's what we need. And they walk out. What are motivational strategies? I'm going to make a appointment with my teacher. I'm setting up short-term goals. It's not I'm going to make an A for the semester. It's my short-term goals what we're going to do. How can we help those students with those goals? And that really is very, very good. So even if they write down 2 or 3 things to do when they leave your office, or you can do this in the classroom. You turn back the test. You can tell them, we tell them ranges of grades. Then the idea is look at your test, what are you going to do? And I've actually had students ask in class, what can I do? I actually had them do small groups. This is another hint. Small groups for about 3 or 4 or 5 minutes. What are you going to do? Where's the math lab? What are the resources? You know, what do you use? Do you use apps? Anything to get them to talk about it. Anything, and then tell them, write down the plan. What's your plan? So you know I'm really hitting this hard because we want them to walk out with a plan, even if it's 3 or 4 things they're going to do. Walking out with a plan makes them more successful and improves their math self-efficacy. That really does work. So we're going to see if we can get out of this again. Let's see if I can do this. Let me go to that one here. Okay, let's go to this one here. Just did that one like that. Did that one there. Let's see here. Textbook assignment, we did that. So let me try this one more time to get out of this because it's jamming up on me. Yep, it worked this time. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go over to this form right here. This is the supplemental resource sheet I was talking about. Look what I did on this one and what we did, because this is your plan. Look at this, math supplemental resources. We got that. This is actually telling study skills assessment on the sheet. We give them this information. We actually hand it to them. Of course, you can put it online and fill it out and give it to them. They have to have something walking out. Have to have something walking out. The math instructors, syllabus, look at that. Look at this, academic resource center. Here we go. Bradenton campus. This is what our hours are. Most students don't know where it is. They don't know where the hours are. Venice campus, we did that one too. We had, we call study coaches, very good. It was tutoring, but also assessing students' learning problems. That's really was. And that worked out well because now they become an extension of you. And I would train them. You know, we ran through some grant materials and then we trained the tutors. Peer assistance learning and SI, supplemental instruction. Either one, this is where the times are. This is where you should go. This is it. And you can see the boxes. I have them check off, what are you going to do? Study skills, anxiety reduction help. We got assessments. We got other information. We got handouts on this, basically. Learning styles inventory, we assess them on that, give them some feedback. CPT is college placement test, so don't worry about that. That one's kind of like gone. Virtual math and tutorial sites, we gave them too. Other, right here. What are the others? Others is what you write down. You gotta remember, you see them, you talk to them, okay? And it's a plan. Part of this is the plan. I want you to come see me once a week. I want you to go to the math lab. I want you to do this. And it's basically, are you gonna do it? What do you want to make in your next test? How many hours do you want to study? This is other things you put in there. What we know from psychology is the fact that if you write it down and check it off and make an agreement with somebody like the instructor or even the tutor, they're most likely to do it. Otherwise, they're not. They're not. And what we want to do is make them successful and give them plans. So you're going to get this later on, and you just redo this for your own self and do it that way. Okay, let's get back to this one. We're on here from current slide. Looks like we're doing a little bit better. There it goes. Okay, so what did I do with the Winning at Math text? This is the new one now. This is different. I really cut it down. And I really make it more effective. What we're looking at here is the Winning at Math text. Now let's go back up for one more minute. We've talked about several ways to help students become more successful in the first 8 weeks. What I'm suggesting you do is after this session, get together, or maybe at another time, and say, what are we going to do? What are the strategies we're going to do? Are we going to do test analysis? Are we going to do the resource sheet? Are we going to invite them in class? Invite the class. Are we going to invite people to the class to talk about anxiety? Are we going to team up with the math lab? So the idea, what are the strategies for you to do to help you become more important and successful in helping the students become successful? So that's a good thing. That's what we want you to do. Figure it out, write it down, make a plan. Share it with the students. Share it with the dean. Share it with the math lab. Okay, you got the point. Now, with this new Winning Math textbook, what we're looking at is how to teach them faster and quicker. And that is the truth. Accelerated classes, correct classes, faster. So what we did is we kind of cut down the chapters and we looked at several topics. How learning math is different, how to take control. We do that up front now. How do you take control? How do you help yourself do this? We moved note-taking. I had a lot of people say, we like note-taking, but you did it too late. We want to do it up front. So the next chapter is on note-taking. Not only note-taking for the classroom, note-taking for homework. That is the big deal now, homework. I've been to many colleges. I walk around different homework areas, and I just watch them. I watch them click. When I train my students and the faculty and Learning Resource Center staff, I said, watch them. After clicking twice, you go talk to them. Well, they didn't ask me to talk to them. I said, no. After clicking twice, it's a problem. Go talk to them, see what's going on, have them write down information. So that's a hint there too. So what happens too is you look at other things. Homework techniques, how to do the homework. We talked about the anxiety issues. That's more and more prevalent. I have some articles now saying anxiety is killing STEMs, and it is. I got an article around the world that tests anxiety is killing STEM programs, and it does. If you want that, I'll send it to Danny, and he'll give it to you. And then assessing your memory and learning strategies, that's another one too. Okay, what other topics? More concise, like I said, more technology and apps. The technology's here. I go into all the technology. I go into different technology areas. And basically is this, you may believe in apps, you may not believe in apps. Well, it doesn't matter. They know about apps. So how do we use them to be more successful with us? Also technology and taking notes. Boy, there's a bunch of stuff out there, smart pens and other things. We got to know how to make them do the notes and make it easier and recall it. Resource plans outside the classroom, we get into that. How do they become more successful outside the classroom? Because that's really the point we want to make. Outside the classroom is very good. But like I said earlier, they don't know how to do it. They just really don't know how to do it. How do they work with their tutors and classmates? Boy, this is more important now, especially for online courses and co-recs. How are you going to work with them and accelerate it? You got to team up with them. There's certain strategies you can do with them, and you got to be effective. Like earlier, I said with tutors, you're basically going to record the session, take pictures, record the auditory part, and the trick with that is having the students say back to the tutor how they can do the problem, not the tutor telling them. And with the classmates, the same thing. How are you going to use basically different type of programs, Skype, and doing things like that? And then the mindfulness and mindset stuff with anxiety, more prevalent. What I'm seeing now, and I got to be honest with you, I'm seeing more anxiety with students because we changed the designs. And get ready for this one. I see more anxiety with faculty. When I was out with people in Kentucky, people in California, those things, they're anxious too. And basically, if I got to teach students that are in college algebra, that should be in elementary algebra, I'm anxious. How are we going to do this? So what we got to do is look at how to help the instructors become a little calmer and the students. And with the instructors, and I'll give you a couple of hints, is you talking together, all of you, making the plans, talking about the resources and how they help them. And later on, what you're going to find out when I get to this one, now I might as well jump ahead because I'm famous at doing that, college algebra, you're going to have some students that their skills are way below you. It's almost impossible to teach them. So you can, like I said earlier, team up with a lab. And we'll get to that in a minute. More activities, that's true. How they do things, what's going on. Chapters neater, better, more personal to students. We did that. Also with the classroom, the co-requisites, I keep hitting that area, and learning activities that you can use or not use. It really makes a difference, with group learning now. And then regarding the combined chapters with motivation and note-taking, we talked about that. And we call it checklists for behaviors. What we're going to look at is that in a couple minutes. Hell is right now. We're going to look at that right now. So what happens when students learn is that it goes into short-term memory, it goes into working memory, and then basically we want it to long-term memory. So after reading the chapter, basically is this. What am I supposed to really know? Now, we have review sections, so this one I got a little more tricky. I actually had them work and check this off and turn it in. I understand that persistence is one of the key factors for math success. Check. Just that check mark and me reading it means that I'm going, okay, I got it. I understand that math is an active subject and I must practice by doing it and understand homework. Check. We talk to that about all the time. So now when they check it off, I go, you check that off. Do you understand that? They go, yes. Next question, are you doing it? Okay. But the idea is, I know they must go to math class every day. I mean, these are obvious, but the check mark part of this one helps them understand better how to do it, better what to do. And these are behaviors. What we have to do as instructors is teach students what behaviors make them more successful in math. Not y'all go do it. What are more behaviors? They're right here. We'll get to the behaviors in a minute too. I know to visit my instructor the first week of class or something like that. You know, that's basically it. You know, I develop a motivational strategy for myself. That's basically it too. What do you do for yourself and how you help yourself? These are good little checklists we call chapter knowledge. Now this becomes more another checklist here. This is really good too. So what happens now, we're going to the behaviors. What are you doing now with behaviors and things like that? Number one, I selected 2 best short-term relaxation techniques. Yeah, you know, you got to do the relaxation techniques and things. What do they do? How can you do with that? I will manage my self-talk. In other words, I'm not going to tell myself I'm dumb and stupid. I'm not going to tell myself I'm going to fail. I'm going to say I studied hard, I worked hard, I'm going to do this. So I want them to check this off and be successful at doing it. So you can see what I'm doing here is basically saying I'm going to do these behaviors and check them off that I did them or I'm practicing. The last one, I'm going to view each test for the 6 type of test taking errors. Yeah. We talked about that. I actually had them do that. And after the first test, I actually had them list all the errors, turn it into me. I give them 5 points just for doing that. I know 5 points is not going to be much in the end, but the 5 points to them right now means a lot. Okay? Big picture now. Some of you are going, oh my goodness, we've seen this before. You have? But this is, I'm going to explain to it very quickly because I spend too much time on this a lot of times. But Bloom's chart has changed. Before it was 50% cognitive entry skills, 25% quality instruction, 25% affective. Now, new research, affective characteristics, you can see it, up to 41%. 41% of their grade is how they learn, their motivation, their study skills, their locus of control, their anxiety areas, the mindset, the whole thing here. Cognitive entry skills, I'm cutting that back because when you go into co-rec courses or sometimes accelerated courses, and different types of co-recs we'll get into. But the idea here basically is this. What's the variance now? How are you going to make up for them not being prepared for the class? Don't have the prerequisite skills. Now, some of them do, some of them don't. It's the affective characteristics. That's how you do it. And that's what I want to show you about that one right there. Okay? Next one. Co-recs. Here we go. A lot of interest in this. I've talked about this many times. I'll talk more about it. I help a lot of people with it. So here's what we're looking at. And I'll just pick out a few things, what people are doing and how to help them. And then we're going to go into some type of curriculum issues so you can see what we're doing. So anyway, combined credit, non-credit courses, we know that. Here's the one that a lot of people do, 3-hour course or 2-hour computer lab. Doesn't work that well. Students who haven't learned the materials, okay, don't have the prerequisite skills, are not going to learn that good in the computer lab. If we start looking at other things too, 3-hour course, 2-hour lab, computers, just-in-time learning, study skills, and a grade. That's what we're finding out works. 3-hour course, 2-hour lab, you do some of the computer, you do some of the studies, just-in-time learning, and study skills and strategies. That works. First thing we're going to do, start with an assessment. Either paper or pencil, or Hawks has their own assessment we'll get into. The idea is this is it. You can aggregate the data. I want to know what they don't know. So when I'm doing a co-rec, I'm teaching them different skills and strategies. And that does work. Start off with developmental. That's what we do sometimes. And later on, get into other skills. Start with credit course material. Some college algebra start right with the credit course material, and basically the lab with the corequisite does the remediation and things like that. So the idea here is this. When you get into these corequisite models, and I'm going to show you a couple in a minute, basically what's happening is that you got to have study skills. People call me about that. You got to have some prerequisite skills training just in time. They do that one too. So they got to have a lot of different things. You got to correlate. You can see me talking about this again. I'm pointing it on my screen with the math lab and coordinate with the lower skills, that sort of thing. Okay. Now, how do you recommend incorporating winning math into lectures and corequisites? This is interesting. We've done this, and it's just the study skill strategies. And let me just mention about study skill strategies quickly and coherently. General study skills really don't work. They really don't. I've had general study skills courses to be incorporated. Math study skills worked really well, but general study skills don't work that well. They can't generalize them. They can't generalize those areas. So the idea here is something different. Okay, so the idea is that what you're going to do is incorporate it directly in the math course. We do little mini lectures. We front load the content, information. You can flip it. A lot of people flip in the classroom. They'll flip it and basically say this: study the study skills outside of class. I'll talk a little about it in class. You got it. It works. Assign winning math chapters. I had instructors that just assign the chapters from the read and write essays up, and I'll tell you about that in a minute because it's in one of our syllabus. It does work. It does work really well. Discuss and demo methods in class. Mini lectures, corequisite labs. They can do in the labs. You got time to do that, you know, and ask questions about winning math. We put questions on the test. My math test question, study skills question on every math test for the first at least 2 tests, because by then we get with the study skills done. I'll do it. I'll tell them. We'll set up the questions. That's good. So the idea now is we're going to look at different types of syllabus. A couple of the ones we're going to look at are real. A couple of them I piecemealed together, and a couple of them are models. So we're going to look at one for elementary algebra, one for liberal arts, corequisite algebra class, that sort of thing. So this is going to work pretty well. So let's see if we can get this up this time. Yeah, we did. Okay, here we go. And I think you should be able to see that. And I would be taking notes because this is it. And like I said earlier, Danny's going to send these to you. I'm going to start off with this first one,
And Dr. Nolting,
sure.
I just want to jump in here and remind our audience that they can ask questions as you go through this.
Oh, good.
So there should be a panel up either in the top or the bottom of the screen that says Q&A. You can type your questions in there. And if we're going through something and we have an audience member with a question, I'll just jump in and stop you and we can address it as we go.
Not a problem. I like the more interaction because when I do my own presentations, live ones, I interact a lot with the audience, as I call it, and instructors and everybody else. So what we're looking at, this is the college algebra with the corequisite. This is the one we talked about. And when we start looking at this one here, you can see what we're doing. This basically is a setup with a 3-2-5. In other words, 3 hours lecture, 2 hours lab, 5 hours total credit. And I'm just going to, the ones I highlighted are interesting, okay? So what happens with this course, they talk about the college algebra, then they have the corequisite lab down here. And that lab basically is based on cutoff scores or not. We don't know. It could be different. And it has a separate syllabus, which we'll get into. So the corec lab is already built into the syllabus. When we go down here a little bit, they got all the objectives here. Last objective, math study skills, understanding the application of math study skills and test taking skills, and anxiety reduction. It's there. It's built into the curriculum. We know that works. Okay. Resources. This is a real course. It's the college algebra with Hawks and the Winning at Math text that I teach. It'll be the 7th edition when they start doing it again. When we get down to the college algebra corequisite lab model, it's basically this. You're going to look at study skills. You can look at anxiety. You're going to look at different ways to help students become more successful. All these, this is what we talked about before. It identify math test anxiety, model 3 short-term relaxation techniques. We talked about those. These are basically the course objectives, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Develop math study skills plan. That's the whole thing. That's part of the course that's in the lab itself. Now, if I go down here a little further, it's going to talk about a grading system, and basically it's going to talk about the lab schedule. So what's happening here with the lab schedule is I actually marked out the schedule. We talked about it being quicker. So we want to finish by midterm. This talks about basically the course itself. Down here, this is the remediation part, and over here is what you do the first week. It's chapter 1 and the math study skills. Second week, chapter 2, basically. Third week, chapter 3. It's sequential, you know. I do have some instructors that will switch around the chapters, which is fine based on their needs. Chapter 4, looking at that, improving your homework techniques. And if you start looking at this chapter 5, I actually put them over 2 weeks because that was more anxiety reduction. And you see it's built right in. Now, the math skills, this is in the course itself. They're not only doing the math study skills, you can see down here, this time they're doing just-in-time learning and tutoring. If I go up here a little further, up here they're doing some type of remediation with math based on the looking at the Hawk system and looking at how they develop it on the aggregated data. Because what they actually do is take the intermediate algebra assessment, basically, and we aggregate that to determine what they need in the course. Later on, they can do the college algebra one too. But you can see it stops right around here. It just stops because we learned that we got to get the math study skills up front. And you can see here, after that, it's more tutoring, computer learning, study skills, study skills practice. That works out well. So going down to here, this is this is a real course. This is the Corequisite Liberal Arts. This one's in Kentucky. And basically what they did 1 6-hour class. Yeah, you heard me right. 1 6-hour class. And what they did here is they divided it up into basically, I think 4 hours in the class, 2 hours in the lab type of thing. And the lab consists of first math study skills the first few weeks, just-in-time learning and tutoring. Success lab grade is based on the math study skills in various areas. So again, they're incorporating that in there itself in 1 6-hour. They like the 6-hour, or you can do it as a 5-hour if you want, because there's not a registration problem. I have other colleges that did a course, then a lab. In other words, a 3-hour course, 2-hour lab, you got to register separately. It does work. It does work. Then you got the problem of what happens if they fail the lab and pass the course. Well, in here, what you're going to see is that a lot of the basic of their success is basically the success lab right here is the study skills and practicing in the lab. So you got the combined grade. When the students see this, they go, oh, that's important. That's important. 20% of my grade is the lab itself into the course, that sort of thing. So that's a pretty good deal. And then what happens here is they went right into the content part of the lab. This one does a math autobiography, and they go to the different chapters of the Winning at Math. This is my older version, the current version, I should say, not the new one. So you can see what they did. They did the homework, and they set it up. So it's a pretty good deal in this one. This is an elementary algebra one, okay? This could be either a module system or it could be a regular classroom. And what they're using is, like I said, the Hawks text right here. And they're using the Winning Math itself. And they did this a little bit differently. This is one class again. And they're talking about the structure of the course. So I'm not going to go through all this. They're getting into certification and all that kind of stuff. And what they're getting to is this. They're actually saying that you can do the Winning at Math text itself. These assignments will require you to complete some reading in the Winning at Math text and write essays. This one, they're actually having them write essays. But here's the kicker right here. You will not be allowed to take your chapter test until you have completed the Winning at Math assignments. This person's smart. They're setting it up right in the course that you got to do Winning at Math and then take a test. Winning at Math and take a test. So they have to take the skills, the study skills, along with the regular course. That's been very successful. This person's increased success rates 15 to 20% just by doing this, by incorporating it and basically just set it up as a regular class with the Winner in Math text. Okay, and you can see this is the amount percentage. It's right in there. It's percentage for the grade itself and how they do it. Yep, and this goes a little further on to some other topics that they're going to do later on. Now, this one is a generic one. Okay, this is the one you can really look at. But it's based on one of the real courses I worked with. And the idea here is this. How do we get through a course that's either a co-rec or a regular course? And where do you put the study skills? This is a real syllabus that we used. You can see it's actually talking about the 6th edition. They're talking about examinations. There will be math problems on at least one math study skills problem in every test. The math study skills will be either a short answer or multiple choice. Now, the thing about the multiple choice, Hawks actually has it built in their learning management system, where you can assign multiple choice tests questions per chapter. So you don't have to do it. And this person basically did that. They did the multiple choice tests. I have other people who will put it on the test itself. It's really up to you, you know, that sort of thing. So what happens here is you've got a whole grading system, and down here, you got a point system here where basically you got 100 points assigned to this. So actually it's about 10% of the grade if you add it all up. So that works pretty good. Okay, now basic schedule. Here we go again. We're front loading this. This actually is set up for this semester, front loading the study skills and learning. So what happens here, this is mainly the lab part or the study skills part, max test chapters and sections. In other words, part of the material is math study skills and the Winning at Math. Part of it's actually doing the textbook chapters. And that's what you put in your textbook chapters. Math textbook chapters. We skipped that week, okay? And then we go back into this again. So you see we're spreading this one out, spreading it out a little more. And what happens there is now you got spring break, and basically right after that, we're finishing up. So exam 2 basically is the exam they're going to have in the class, and they're also going to have tests. And this strategy, they actually give tests in the classroom with a regular math test. So what you're seeing is a variation of things. And I know I'm going through pretty quick on this, but what I want you to get out of this is that you can do it different ways. It has to count for some type of grade. It could be essays. It could be questions on the math test, homework assignments, and all that. You can see toward the end, we just stop. So basically, that's it. So what happens here, and I'll just kind of go back, is that you're integrating this, and you can just take this copy and use it yourself and just plug in what we call the numbers, so to speak, and plug in the information. We go back up to this one up here too, and I'll show you this one. This is, like I said, the basic computer rated. What it really means is any type of course is using computer-based instruction, but it doesn't have to be all computer. It could be classroom and computer. It could be anything you want. And like I said, it's generic. This is a 10-week one, and you know, I have one for 8 weeks. Well, you can pick out which one you want and do which one. That's a really good deal. So I'm going to get out of that right now because we have probably about 5 minutes left. I'm going to do a couple more things too. Okay, from current slide. And I hope you're still with us. So we talked about that. Now we're going to go down to the next one. And Hawks. I talked about the multiple choice test and things like that. So this is some of the questions. These are real questions out of the multiple choice test with Hawks. Which statement is correct? Describe a difference between high school and college math. You can see those, you know, and they're just, you know, what is it? These are just good questions. Next one, select a statement which is not true about test anxiety. Reducing test anxiety will guarantee better grades. Yeah, that's the one's not true, okay? According to the author, emotional test anxiety involves physical symptoms like whatever it is, according to the author, Rory, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. The idea here is that you can do this. They can do it easily by basically you assigning the homework assignments, okay? So if you looked at this, you can get an idea of the type of questions that are in there. And it's easy. That's what the point is. Easy, but they still got to learn the study skills And you can assess this in the learning management system. Okay, how is some administration integrating math into study skills into the curriculum? When I go to colleges, I do this a lot. I look at it and go, what are your top 10? Top 10 courses, high enrollment, not being successful. Usually 5 are math. Luckily, most of the times if they do it right, math is not number 1. So that's a good deal, right? It's not number 1. Usually accounting 1 is the worst course they have. And then math kind of slides in there. So the idea is that we got to help these students. Math department touches every student. Students pass classes, they graduate. And this bottom one is really important down here. Here we go. More math success means more money for the college and FTEs. Now, that's nice. Personally, we like this. We want the students to succeed. When you get to administration, it's this. I had one administrator saying, well, we could lose all these math students. No, I won't tell you the college, okay? But it was in Texas. I'll leave that. We can lose some of these developmental math students. We'll be okay. I'll go, yeah, but you think about the FTEs you lost from the other courses. And he said, this is the present now. He said, what do you mean? I said, look, once they don't pass math, they stop coming. And he goes, really? And we figured it out. You failed 2 math courses. Most times students don't come back, at least for a couple of years. I said, you may be okay with losing the FTEs of the math courses, but you just lost another 9 hours per student if they're full-time. FTEs, you just threw away millions and millions of dollars. He goes, oh my goodness, I never thought of it that way. That's right. They're not going to take the other classes. Oh, okay. This is at a meeting with the math department, actually a dinner. And he goes to the math department chair, how much money you need? He said, 50,000. He says, okay, I'll give it to you. Just make sure you get more success. That's what we're looking at with these things, okay? So when we start looking at this, and I'm going to wrap this up a little bit because I think we're about done. A couple of things to think about. One, again, is what are you going to do the first 8 weeks? You're into it. What are you going to do in class tomorrow? How are you going to promote success? And you're going to work together, basically, as being successful and make strategies. Hey, and some instructors use some strategies, some instructors use other ones. That's fine. That's fine. The idea is you got to show that you care first, then the students care. Now, our internal locus of controls, the really good students, I'm not worried about them. But our middle group students, they're more external, as I call it, they're seeing that you caring, they care more, and you're going to start talking about plans. You're going to even make it a homework assignment after you talk about different strategies. Which ones are you going to do? I want you to write them down and turn them in. Turn them in. Now, when I turned them in, you know, if I was doing this, turn them in, then I would have them the next class or this class after that, spend about 5 minutes in class, having different people talk about plans. You can do it in a group, plans. Remember doing the group plans, vicarious learning? They see other people doing plans, they'll do a plan. Some people say the plan worked, this didn't work. This is great news, great news. Next thing, when you get to the future areas of basically this curriculum, what do we want to do? How are we going to do with co-recs? How are we going to integrate the study skills in there? You know, what are the success strategies? What can we do now and become more successful? And now I got a few minutes left. I'm going to see if Danny has some questions. Got to apologize for the glitch on my computer. And if you see this, if you're going to NAID, which I hope you do, I'll be doing a workshop there, and so will Hawks. They'll be doing workshops there. Both of us will be there for, you know, talks and consulting. So Danny, any questions out there as I take another sip from my Florida State cup? Yikes, they didn't do good this year. Hopefully next year.
Hey, Dr. Nolting, we've had a couple questions, but they're things that I've been able to answer.
Oh, good.
People excited about getting the resources that you mentioned here today. And so a reminder to our audience that we will send those all to you along with a recording of the presentation. But we are right up on an hour. So I'd like to thank you again, Dr. Nolting, for all the information and the presentation, and for everybody in our audience for attending today. If you do think of questions in the future, you can see Dr. Nolting's contact information there. You can always email us as well at marketing@hawkslearning.com. We can answer them, or we'll help direct you to Dr. Nolting and make sure that he'll get back to you with an answer. And we have a couple people just commenting that they love the presentation, great information, and really enjoyed it. So thank you so much to everyone, and we're glad to hear that.
And I'll close. I have the last 5 seconds. Okay. You have the skills to make students successful. Okay. We want students to be successful in math. You have the ability to be math heroes. And we talked about this actually in the MATIC last time. You have the ability to be a math hero to help these students become more successful in math, change their lives, select the courses they want. We have to change our behavior a little bit to help them. They have to change their little behavior a little bit to be more successful. But you now have some things, at least several things you can work with them on. And again, if they're, how can I say this? If they're repeaters, you got to bring them in. If they didn't do well in the first test, you got to bring them in. If they're students with disabilities, you got to work with the Disability Center office. If they're vets, work with the vet office. So it's a team approach. Team approach will make students more successful. And you have to lead the team as the math heroes. Thank you.